Yeah, millennials, that's it, the millennials, which means basically they're so involved in cyberspace and computers that that's their whole world now. So the energy that they're in is like no energy they can get in if they would just take a look at the Prophet Noble Drawley's information. In Chicago here, we have a lot of young people who come to the temple. I mean, some of them are 14, 15. We have a lot of young people, young men, young women, and they never heard anything like this. So uh, they, as well as the old people, has to be washed like we do, symbolic of cleansing of the soul that the prophet talks about. They have to be washed. They have to be taught how they can wash themselves and cleanse themselves. I mean, they come up with some bright-eyed energy, and they are most of them, for the part, are ready to roll up their sleeves and go to work. Because we tell them, we says, listen, what you were doing before is different from what you say that you would do now. You have proclaimed publicly of who you are, and there's a responsibility that goes. We just explain everything to them, their responsibility. Some of them get it, some of them don't. One young brother came in, and he came in for about 3 or 4 classes, and whatnot, Sunday school classes and the regular service meeting, and he had this cross around his neck. And I never noticed until something he wore that was showing. I says, brother, you just joined the temple. Why are you wearing a cross? I've had this all my life. I had it all my life. And my mother gave it to me, and you still haven't answered my question. The cross represents Christianity. Why are you wearing something that represents Christianity? You've taken out your nationality. But here's the thing with say, the hoop jumper, who, as the prophet talks about, or it's talked about in one of his editorials, I don't think he wrote it, but he says, well, when you tell them, well, why are you in school and you jumping through hoops? And all they can tell you is that I'm just jumping through hoops because I can't explain it. Just that I'm just a hoop jumper. They really have, in other words, they have no explanation of why. And they may lose themselves, but you're not going to lose them. The ones that say they want energy, but the ones who can read and comprehend, because that's a two-part demonstration, reading and comprehending. They're there. They're there. And the ones that can't read and comprehend at that very moment will give the seed to someone else, and it'll grow somewhere else. Because that's how Moorish science works. It's one heart and one hand that connects the other hearts and hands. And here's the thing about it. Moorish science, as Miliel said, is as fresh today as it was when the prophet just walked through Chicago on the empty blocks and gave it to us. It's just as fresh as it was then today. It's just as fresh and crisp. The Moorish science of America has undergone many attacks, many changes, many infighting, many ex-fighting. But here's the thing. His Qurans, his minutes of all of his conventions, his seals, his charter, still belong to Home Office, to us. Still belongs to us. After all of that, it still is in the right hands. These are primary instruments that the Prophet Noble Durali put his hands on, touched himself. It's still there. You know this is a divine movement. It's still in the right hands of this human being here now called Ibras Bobay, who is the 8th Supreme Grand Sheikh and Chairman, coming from the Prophet's first Supreme Grand Sheikh and Chairman, Brother Emilio. Nobody else has that. But it still has its place. It still has its place. This is nothing to play with. It's a divine movement. It's real as real can get. And we're out not telling people what to do. We're sharing with them the teachings of this great Prophet Noble Durali, and we're repeating what he has already said. And I say this all the time. I am not the world's greatest tell-all and tell you this. It's not me. I'm reading and repeating what he has already given to us. I'm giving to you what he is giving to me, sharing with you all of those things that helps you to be a better person, a better father, a better mother, a better brother, better sister, better children, just better. You know when you're around a Moorish American pastor, even if it's a child, like your big son. Everybody know when they're around, they say, oh, he's so intelligent. He speaks so clearly. He understands differently. What is it about this boy? Many of our Moorish scholars would like to think that this is a movement separate from the Moorish Science Temple of America, but it's not. It describes the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Moorish Divine and National Movement, it's a movement that is divine and national in its whole scope. Divine means proceeding from Allah. I mean, this is something that Allah himself ordained through his prophet, Noble Jawali, our prophet. And a national movement means this is moving nationally. As the prophet stated that he was the founder of the Asiatic states of the Americas, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing. This movement is a movement that can't be stopped again. It is a movement that is enriching our people to proclaim their free national name and religion. It is a movement that is enabling our people to become a free national citizen in this free national government. It is a movement that is educating our people, our young, our old, our sick, our blind, our deaf, our dumb, into being what they were from the beginning. Before slavery, we were known as something other than a slave. Let's get real now. We were known something in terms of a piece of land, even if it was a Senegalese, which wasn't the name then, but even if it was a Moor, which was a Moor, we were something. So this movement is a movement that, as I said earlier, is like a train that hits the track, and the track never runs out. And it's such a strong locomotive that you can't stop it. It's a movement that is enriching the entire world, but at the same time, speaking in terms of osmosis, it is also educating the European who thought that he was white at one time. Because the prophet says, now's the time for all free national men to proclaim their free national name, to be recognized in the government. All men, that means them too. So them too, this movement also gives them an opportunity to start stating their free national name and what it is. It's not white. You can't be German American and white at the same time. Remember, agriculture was a very prominent industry in our country then. In fact, you have the Jay Treaty, Jay Treaty. You have the Jay Treaty, which established a treaty between the United States and Britain, which was basically a rehabish of the Articles of Association in terms of the trade part. That they would respect each other's goods and trades, and they would trade this much, they would trade that much, and a lot of their trade, let's say a large percentage of their trade was an agricultural essence. It was the land, the gold, not the gold, but the cotton, the sorghum, the sugar, all of those agricultural products. So the majority of our people, because you had more people in a rural society than you had in an urban society. So many of them didn't think it was necessary to go and read, write, and be, as they call, learn. So the majority of them, especially Europeans, it was more of them who couldn't read and write, who didn't know right from left in terms of scholastics. They didn't know. They were just as lost as anyone else. It wasn't just our people, but we were forbidden. Many of us were forbidden to read and write. And those who read and write, they didn't let you know that they know how to read and write. And those that could read and write became like almost like a sore thumb to them. They could read and write. They could read and understand things. But when you talk about moving hundreds and thousands of our people into understanding of their free national name and religion before the constitutional government, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. It just simply was not happening because it was more of us and them, especially Europeans, who couldn't read and write and didn't understand the mechanics of law, the mechanics of citizenship. They didn't understand it. The understanding of trade. It was some of us, but very few as compared to them. When you talk about agricultural trade and business, but those Europeans that live in the mountains and the hills, I'm not going to say what they call them because I don't want to disrespect the slang that they call the ones that lived in the hills. But I can say that the prophets say they were pale, what they say, pale skin or pale face. Pale skin nations, yeah, them the ones. They had to be put under the category of free white people. And they know that white, according to science, means purity. Purity means God, and God means the rule of the land. They know that they wasn't white.